Everybody, welcome. My name's R. Michael Anderson. You can call me Michael to make it easy for you. And what we're doing is today, this is a bit of an interesting one. Now, a lot of people that follow me know that I have a master's degree in spiritual psychology. And my next to last book, I've written 3 books. The middle one is called Soul-Centered Leadership. And and what this is just an introduction to what soul-centered leadership is. And because it's a bit of an interesting subject and title, and I don't do as much around it anymore, but I think it was a good, it's with all the crazy things that leaders and people in general have been going through. I thought, you know what, let me just do something for the people that follow me and everything, and just really give a bit of teach a little bit about what soul-centered leadership is and spiritual psychology, talk about the changes it had in my life, just to really give back and so hopefully you're going to get something out of it. It'll maybe make you look at things, whether it's your own life or leadership or whatever it is, a little bit of a different way, and just really add something to your life. That's really my whole goal of this. And I don't even have anything to sell on this one. It's just really to give back to the community. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to talk about some principles of spiritual psychology and soul-centered leadership, and then we'll leave some time for questions. This is a bit of a teaching thing. We're not going to do any group work. I had over 100 people sign up, which was really neat. So there's a lot of people from different time zones and everything. So I just wanted to give some information about this, and so you can keep your webcam on, keep it off, just relax and just sit back for a little bit, and hopefully you'll get some value out of that. So, but I will leave time for questions, and when we get to questions, you can either turn yourself off of mute or type it in. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to listen. I'm not going to be watching chat. Katie, who works with me with marketing, is going to be monitoring the chat. And so, Katie, you're welcome to jump in if anything, but I will leave time for questions at the end. What I want to do is I want to start with a story, and you might have heard this story before, but I don't always share this one, because my life really changed in April 1st, 2008. Because what happened is I was a younger business owner then. I started a software company a couple, maybe about 2.5 years before that, and it's enterprise software. And so I grew up a programmer. I worked my way up the corporate ladder. I started my first software company, and we had a lot of success very quickly. And what happened is my life was much different then than it was now, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I as we go through, and I had a business partner then, and he was a key employee that I gave some equity to. And I got my little kitty coming around. Come on, Bear, come here. Ah, not now, buddy. All right. Hey, working from home, we do what we can, right? We do what we can. And what happened is as part of our deal, he was a key employee and he was doing a lot of work with me, and I promised him some equity. So I promised him a part of the business, and I promised him a percentage. And then after a little while, he wanted more of a percent. And if you know about business owners, this is obviously a huge deal. And tensions were high between us. And when I say high, we were getting in over the last week or two around that time, we were getting into some really difficult conversations because we both had a position and neither of us wanted to move. And it seemed like there was a lot on the table here. And we were both, I was running and he was helping me out run this growing company, and we had a lot of stress. I mean, we had payroll in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. We had all these big clients. We were growing. So there was a lot going on. So stresses were high. And what happened is I remember this really specifically. This is a Wednesday, again, April 1st, 2008. I was in my office, and I was just sitting there getting some work done, and he popped in. It was about 10 a.m. He popped in, and we'll just call him my business partner. And he popped his head in, and he asked me just an everyday operational question. And I answered the question, but it wasn't the question he was expecting. And so he popped out, but then he popped back in. And he said, I don't agree with that. And so we started going back and forth and back and forth. And he I'm pretty laid back. I'm just sitting there. But as we got back and forth, he started getting angrier and angrier. And I'm like, and he started shouting. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody that gets so angry that they're red and they're just like shouting and they're just quivering with anger. And this is the way he was getting. And I was like, look, I understand you're angry, but don't shout at me. There's employees around. We're in the middle of office, in the middle of the day. Why don't you go back to your office? And then at the end of the day, we'll talk about this when nobody else is in there and in the office. And I thought that was the end of it. He took one step out of my doorway, and I went back to what I was doing. And then he popped his head back in, and he was still so angry. I saw the anger in his eyes, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to wipe that smile off your face." And I was just sitting there, and he walked around my desks. He cocked back, and with all his might, he hit me. And so April 1st, 2008, Wednesday, 10 a.m., I got assaulted by my own business partner in my office. And then I think we both just looked at each other, and he was still really angry. I'm like, well, what's going to happen? Are we going to get into a fight? Should I protect myself? Should I hit him back? It's like all these things started going through my mind. And then he left. I think he realized what he did. He left my office. I got up and I got to shut the door to get my head around my head around this. And people ask, I'm just going to turn off that annoying thing. Now, what happened? People ask me what I was going through at that time when I literally got assaulted in my own office, and it's like I was in just a state of shock. I was in like a state of part of me was angry at him. Part of me was, should I go fight him? What should I do? And should I just ignore it? Is this going to go away? And it was just, I guess I was in shock, because it's like I couldn't. If you've ever had something happen to you where you didn't even know how to respond because it was so out there, and it's not that it hurt. I knew it was coming, and it's not that he really hurt me or anything, but it just freaked me out, I guess is the best thing to say. I had a mentor. I called that mentor who also owned a business. I said, this just happened. What do I do? He said, well, you got to do something about this. This is not normal behavior. And if you're not going to do something now, it's going to get worse. And so you really got to address this. So I left. I went and I registered at the police station. I got a restraining order. And then when he came into work, my business partner came into work the next day, I had an armed security guard handing him a restraining order and his termination notice, because I still own the majority of the business. And so I could fire him. So he was fired. We had a restraining order against him, and I got a copy of a lawsuit. And then as each one of my employees came in, I had to sit them down and say, hey, this guy who you reported to is no longer with us because he hit me yesterday. And then I had to call all the clients and say, this guy who we used to, you've been working with on your projects is no longer here, and I can't tell you why. And it was the hardest time in my life, because I had all this stress on me before, and I'm going through a divorce. And then it's like, I thought I was potentially going to lose everything, because he started, and what happened is he actually started a competitor. We got into this huge, nasty lawsuit, and he started stealing clients as we're spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on attorneys. And it was just more stress. It was the hardest time in my life. And I remember when all that happened that evening, I went back to my place, and I'll be quite honest with you. I was rolling a joint. I was going to do some cocaine, and I was pouring a Johnny Walker for myself, some whiskey, because at that time in my life, that's how I solved problems. That was my go-to to escape from stress and from reality in a way. And I really was reflecting on my life. And again, I don't know if anything has ever happened to you that really caused you to reflect. Any big thing has really happened and really caused you to reflect on your life. And I was reflecting on my life, and that really, of course, caused me to reflect on my life, all this stuff happening. And I was looking at my life, and externally, it looked like I was living a very good life. I was pretty well known in California, in San Diego, where I was a pretty well-known business person. I was on, the front cover of the newspaper. One of my businesses was pretty well known. I was making a lot of money. I was partying a lot. I was pretty well known in the social scene. That was externally, but internally, I had such a chaotic inner life. I was just, even though I looked confident and I was making this money and everything else, it's like my inner life was horrible. I was so hard on myself. I was racked with self-doubt. I felt like an imposter. It's like I was having this success, but I was just Like I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. Anything that I did, I was just over analyzing. I would not sleep. I would go through depressions, not tell anybody about it. I was just so up and down all the time. And it's funny because people would say, Michael, you have such a great life. You have this company, you're partying all this, you travel, all this type of stuff. And I'm like, that's so weird that they think that I have a great life, because I hate my life. I don't like where I am. And as I was thinking about it, it's like, what's going on here? And you know, because I'm setting these goals. I was a good doer. I was a good achiever, and I would set these goals, and then I would achieve these goals. But I would be like, I'll be happy when I get to this goal. I'll be happy when I get here. But I would get there, and I'd be angry. It took me so long, and I would set bigger goals. There was no happiness or fulfillment or joy in my life. And I was like, look, what is going on with me? I'm like, maybe I should sell my business, because, you know, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I just don't have what it takes. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. It's been my dream, my whole life to do this. And then, you know, I thought, what's wrong with me? Maybe I'm flawed. Maybe there is something inherently wrong, because I see other people happy, but I'm not happy. And so am I doing so? Maybe it's just not available to me. Maybe it's available to them and not me. And then it's like I got angry at God, but I didn't even know if I believed that there was a God, because like, it's like, why do I have to go through this? I'm doing what I think is right, and I'm getting there. It's just, there's no payoff for me. Whoa, gee, I'm just remembering this. It was a crazy time. And then, you know, I made two life-changing decisions that evening sitting there. The first was, instead of self-medicating myself, instead of doing a bunch of drugs and alcohol, I went and I took a jog. I went for a run. So instead of self-medicating myself, I did something healthy for myself. And then the second thing is, I told myself, whatever it takes, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to figure out this happiness thing. And that's what I did. I set out on a quest to do it, because I realized I'm a good doer. So why don't I change what my goal is? Why don't I change what I'm striving for? Because I was getting there. So let's make being happy, being fulfilled, that. And then what happens is I know I was in part of this group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. I knew a couple other business owners just had a really calm and peaceful and happy way about them. And those are the things I never had. I was never calm. I was never peaceful. And you know, my happiness is very external, not internal. And I found out that I made friends with them. I'm really close with one of them still. And they went through what's called a master's in spiritual psychology up a couple hours north in Los Angeles. And, I looked at the website for like 5 minutes. I'm like, heck with it. I'm signing up for it. I got to do something, or I'm gonna literally end up dead. So I signed up for this thing, and it was literally life-changing. And it's hard for me to explain the difference in my life now. You know, from the personal standpoint, I finally have found some of that peace. And when I say some of that peace, you know, to me, these are lifelong journeys, but it's like, I found this peace and I found this joy within me. Instead of externally, I found it within me. Life is so much easier for myself. That negative voice that was always telling me all the things I did wrong is no longer there. In fact, sometimes it's my cheerleader. Sometimes it actually helps me. So think about your inner voice that's always harping at you. What if you could quiet that, or even change it so that it's got your back? And you know, when you don't do something perfectly, it's like, all right, we got it next time. You get that type of resilience. You know, I feel I was the type of people, I wouldn't even make eye contact with people before, because I had ADD. I was all over the place. I was just a bit insecure. And I was like that, a bit arrogant guy that was insecure, wanted to tell you how much money he was making, because that's what he put his worth into. And that was my identity. And you know, I'm not perfect. I'm still human, but I've shed a lot of that. I'm just so much more comfortable in my own skin. And I still have ups and downs. You know, I'm still human, but there's so many more ups than downs, and the downs aren't so low, and they don't take me out like they used to. And I really switched myself from being really external to being internally guided, and it's so much more fulfilling. And so I'm going to talk. I just want to give you a little bit of story. And then, you know, when I started applying what I learned there to my businesses, we really started to thrive. So that was on the personal life, but on the business life, you know, once I started applying what I learned there to my businesses, when I started, I owned one, and at the height, I owned 3 software companies, but we got listed on the Inc. 5000 list. I was voted, we won the #1 best place to work, and I won Social Entrepreneur of the Year, which was great externally, but internally, I was finally having fun. Because up until then, just leadership was one big ball of stress for me. It was external stress, and then it was internal stress because I was so hard on myself. And it was a really difficult way to go through life. And then what I did, and so, and I'm really, to me, it was so fulfilling because we were giving so much value to our customers. We're giving back to the community, which has always been really important to me. And I was watching my people grow as people, watching my employees grow as people. And to me, and we had such a great culture by putting all these things in here. And then a couple other business owners in California saw what I was doing, the changes in myself and the changes in my business. They started calling me and saying, hey, can you come and help me out? And I really enjoyed that. I started coaching and teaching them and helping them with their lives and their business. And I really enjoyed that. And I figured after 25 years in accounting software, it might be time for a change. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Michael, you are involved in accounting software. When you mix accounting and you mix software, those are the two sexiest things in the world. So you must have been sort of like a rock star, Mike. I'm like, yeah, I was pretty cool in the accounting software world. I got to give you that. But no, but I love my ERP days. But it was time for a change. So after 25 years of doing that, I'm like, hey, I really enjoy helping other leaders go through. Make things a bit easier on themselves, and that's a change I went through. So that's what I do now. And Stanford University has brought me in to level up their startup ecosystem. Uber, Microsoft, Salesforce. They brought me in to level up their leaders. Work with a lot of scale ups. I got a couple of masterminds. I know a couple of mastermind people are in here. So, but I teach a lot about mindset of leadership. But I really, to me, it's really fun to talk about the soul center part of it, the spirituality. When I talk about the spirituality, it's nothing to do with religion. It's a general type of spirituality. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about here. So let me pop this over. I am going to share. I mean, we couldn't get through this without some sort of PowerPoint, could we? So, but I do want to pop some stuff up to share some things. So I'm going to share my screen 2. On there. And Katie, you see my screen okay? Is that good? We got that? Good. All right. So I'm going to talk about what spiritual psychology is, because so many people say, hey, spiritual psychology is really interesting. Tell me a bit more about that. And so that's what we have, is the spirituality. And so spiritual psychology. The funny thing is, when you look up psychology, what it means now is a science of mind and behavior. But what it used to mean, if you go back to the roots of psychology, the word psych, it means breath, principle of life, and soul. And so psychology way back when was the study of the soul. But what happens is, all these years have passed, and it's really moved from the heart and the soul up to the mind. And the mind's important, but the soul's really important too. So spiritual psychology, in a way, is looking back there. And I'm going to throw a real technical I'm going to throw a real technical thing, so don't worry if this is a little bit confusing. But in a way, spiritual psychology is a technology. And when I say it's a technology, it's a set of tools and skills that allow you to convert everyday life experiences into rungs of the ladder of your spiritual evolution. And don't worry, when I put that up there, I'm like, maybe I should take that out, because to me, it's a little confusing. So we're going to go through some of this in a little more detail. We're here really to answer, in a way, 3 questions. A lot of people have these 3 questions in their lives, and I want to talk about each one. It's who am I? Like, who am I really? Like, when you think about who you are, I'm not talking about who you think you are when I say think of, or who you want to be, or what you want people to see you as, or who you try to be, or who you try to be at work, who you try to be for your family, who you try to be for your relatives. It's not those. Who are you at your core? What is your true essence? And my guess is, if you were like me, and still now, it's like, because these are lifelong journeys, it's like you have a little inkling of that. But sometimes I find people spend so much time in these different identities. Like, I try to be this, I got to do this, I should do this, I should do that. If I don't do this, and if I don't do that, and it just drives us crazy. We're probably so used to doing that we realize we're doing it, but we don't realize we're doing it because it happens so often. And then who am I? Who am I at my core? Who am I really deep down? The second is, why am I here, and what is my purpose? And let's take 2 and 3 together. So, and how can I make a more meaningful contribution in the world? So, the grand question is, why am I here? Why am I here on earth? What is my purpose? What am I here to do? And a lot of us, especially as we get older, our purpose is often, maybe to get a job, make money, have a family. But now that we do some of that, it's like, well, what's next? Is there more to life than this? What do I really want to do now? And how can I, I'm here, I'm making some money, I'm somewhat successful, I have that family, but how can I really make a difference here on earth? And not just a difference of giving money, but really make a difference, make a legacy, and and do that. And to me, these three questions are really deep questions that when you can answer them, at least partially, or get on the right track, it really provides guidance in your life. Now, I'm going to make this easy. I'm going to answer some of the big ones for you. No, I'm going to give you, in a way, an answer to it. But, and again, what I'm going to share is what I believe, and part of it's spiritual psychology that I learned at the University of Santa Monica. And the University of Santa Monica, they do online classes. And if you have a question, you send of who they are, send a note to me. I'll give you my email at the end, and I'll send you their website. But they're an amazing place. So what I'm doing here is I'm giving you a bit of spiritual psychology, exactly how I learned it from them, and then my interpretation of it and my interpretation of spirituality. And if you are religious, you have two choices. You can figure out what I'm saying is different than your religion, or what I'm saying is really aligned with your religion. Because all religions, in a way, have the same basic things. They're all based on love and compassion deep down. I've actually I've taught soul center leadership in Dubai to people from all over the Middle East, and who are mostly Muslim. And they were so excited because all the things I were talking about, like, oh, there's taught in the Quran, and this Allah says this, and Muhammad said this, and I guess Muhammad said that, but this is what Allah, teaches, and things like that. So they were all excited. I am not any specific religion. I'm very open in my spirituality, but so don't worry if you're religious or not. Just this is all for your information, and you don't have to believe any of this. I'm just throwing it out there for your consideration. And so, and I'm just talking about what I believe, because everybody has to really take their relationship with their higher power, if they even have one, to their own. But if you're here, I'm sure you have some interest in this. So no, there's not any specific religion, but we are souls having or using a human experience. And what does that mean? So I believe that we are souls, and our soul goes, if this is time, and then our soul is like, oh, time for me to be born. Here I am on earth. My name's Bob or Sally or whatever. Or I was born in Minnesota. And then here, we go through our life, and then we pass away. But, our soul has been here before, and our soul is going to go on after we die. And right now, this is your life, my life, our life right now that we're here on earth. This is part of our soul's journey. And we're here, if you want to talk about our purpose, is to really learn soul lessons, is to have our soul evolve while we're here on earth. And we do that through learning lessons. We learn compassion, we learn empathy, we learn to let go of control, we learn all these different things. We learn to let go, we learn to love ourselves, love everybody else, those type of things. So that is really what my purpose is here on earth. And that's why we are here, and that's who we are. You are a soul. And even getting to that, and again, we could talk for literally months on each one of these little things. But we talk about who you are. This is a great saying by Rumi, that your task is not to seek love, but your task is merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself and dissolve them, because it's a very subtle statement, but you are love. You don't love other people because you are love. You don't do something that you already are. When there's somebody in your life that you do love, that's because they help you connect to the love that you are already. I know that's a little bit of a strange concept sometimes, but the fact is you are love. You don't have to do anything more. Well, the only thing we have to do is get rid of all this is a technical term, crap between us and the realization that we are love. The way I think of it is this is your core. Your core is love. And then sort of here is your consciousness. And then we have all this crap in here. We have all this like self-doubt, self-talk, negative self-talk. We have got all this doubt and blah, 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 blah. And what we do is we use psychology, and we use some other techniques, spiritual psychology and psychology, to get rid of all these different blocks so that we can really connect to the love that we are. And the thing is, when we connect to the love that we are, then we're more authentic, we're more powerful, we have more energy, people like us more, all these great things. That's what it did to me. We stopped trying to be things for other people, for example. Now I have an example. I can prove this to you right now. I can prove this to you right now. So I want you to think. I just feel how you're at now, right now. You know, you're probably all right. This is somewhat interesting. You know, here I am. But if you just shut your eyes and think of someone or something that you love, and when I say someone, someone really close to you, someone that brings up really warm feelings in you. Often a baby, if you have a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew, or I have a couple cats, little kitty cats, or you know, and thinking about them when they're a kitty is so amazing, or a little doggy or a little puppy, or maybe a mom or dad or whoever. If you just shut your eyes and think of whoever that is, and just pretend they're there and they're giving you a hug, or they're purring in your lap, or they're just being so cute and amazing. Did you feel your love more? You probably did. If you did the exercise properly, you probably felt more warm, more connected, better. But they weren't even here. They were in your mind. And so you were able to connect to your own love by basically changing your thoughts, right? Because it's not like they were next to you. That's what it is. So again, we are love. We don't have to do anything else except for connect to that. And it's a lot easier said than done, for example, connecting to the love that we are. And again, these are lifetime type things. But that's a little bit about we are. And the more you connect to the love that you are, the more, some people call that awakening or becoming consciousness. That's awakening or becoming consciousness, because you'll become awake to the love that you already are, that's inside you, that makes you up. And that's what awakening is. All right. So now, this is what's called the two-line model. So if you have this on the horizontal axis, right, here you have physical world reality. So this is more better on the physical level, and this is less on the physical level. And this means, for example, if I'm over here, I'm making more money. I'm here, I'm making less money. This is like I drive a better car or I drive a worse car, that I have a better job or whatever. And the thing is, and so this is physical reality, and this is the soul line. So on this way means like I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm getting rid of that stuff. I'm connecting more to the love that I am. I'm becoming more conscious, more awake as I move up the soul line. Now, here's the thing about life. It's somewhat easy to move on one of these axes. It's not that, you know, when I say it's not that hard to make a lot of money, you can make a lot of money and not be a better person. You absolutely can. Maybe you sell drugs, right? You know, that's a bit of a dramatic example, but you know, maybe you're in business, but you really are really political. You step on other people. You don't care about other people. Maybe you sell a lot to people that don't, or whatever, and you don't care if it works or not, but you're just really there to get ahead and make money. So that would be like moving this way without moving up. And that's possible, and people do that. And then there's also the people that really just concentrate on their growth. And, you know, this might be the people that go into a cave and they meditate for 20 years, right? And they're monks. And there's nothing wrong with either of those. You know, you might know, for example, this always gets me in trouble. You might know, for example, your friend who knows a friend and they're a yoga teacher, but they're always having trouble making rent. Now I got a problem because both my wife and Katie, my marketing person, are both ex-yoga teachers. I'm not supposed to use that anymore, but I'm joking. But if you ever met those people that are just really spiritual, but they're like, oh, I have no money. Yeah, that's okay. They're just worried about moving one way, not the other on these axes. But what I teach people to do is move both ways. And I'll tell you what, to me, moving both ways on these lines is 100%, 500%, 100 times more difficult than moving one way or the other. Because it's like, as you make more money, there's so many more draws and there's so many more pulls that test your soul. And you become more influential. And then there's so much more ways your ego can mess with you. Same as when you move up the soul line. It's sometimes just easier just to keep moving up the soul line and not really worried about building a company, influencing others like that. And there's a lot of great, amazing spiritual people that try to get into business. They don't really succeed because it's the difficulty of moving both in the same way. And that's to me what soul-centered leadership is moving both ways so that you can be influential and influence a lot of people from a very elevated, positive way and empower them and really bring a lot of positivity in. So that to me, that's really what I work with soul-centered leadership. Now, when we have the FiveLine model, what this means, I'll tell you what, we're gonna go, yeah, let's do this. And so the physical is when it comes to change, we have to work on the physical, the mental, and the emotional, and the subconscious level before we have change. Because look, the authentic self is always, because these are 5 levels from like top down. You got the physical, the mental, emotional, unconscious, and down here is the authentic self, way on the bottom, which is, you could call it the core, right? Now the physical and mental and emotional, we all have there's a plus and a minus. There's a polarity on each one. There's not on the authentic self because it's pure love, and love doesn't have a plus or a minus. It just is. And what happens when we try to make change, oftentimes we just focus on the top 1 or maybe the top 2. And that's a problem because, say that, the biggest change a lot of people want to make is they want to, for example, lose weight. So say you work really hard to change your diet and maybe you're a couple pounds or whatever overweight, you change on the physical level. Hey, I did a good job. I look better, but there was mental, emotional, and unconscious reasons that you were that weight. Mentally, unconsciously, maybe so you got some conditioning from your parents that says you got to be, you're not worthy to be attractive or whatever. Emotionally, that sticks in with you emotionally, and mentally, that is in your head. And so what happens if you move here without worrying about the mental, emotional, and subconscious levels, one of 2 things will happen if you only make a change on one place. These, the universe loves being in balance. So these will go this way and you will have a lot of self-doubt and self-talk. You will emotionally have problems. Maybe you'll make yourself sick. And then unconsciously, there's going to be a lot of things brought up unconsciously. So maybe you'll be quicker to anger. You'll be more angry. You'll get depressed. You're like, why am I depressed? I lost this weight. I look good, but yet I just feel bad. And so when we make changes, we have to really worry about that on all levels. And just think about it. To me, it's like the authentic self always wants to express itself. And so it's like, hey, I want to express some love, but then here's some love, and then it's like, oh. I have some subconscious beliefs that I'm not lovable, and then I have some emotional trauma, and then I get some mental things, and then maybe that's why on the physical level that you have certain behaviors. And so that's really why when I work with people in soul-centered leadership, and even in my masterminds, when it's just a mindset, we work on all these different levels. I guess the mastermind is from here up, but then the soul-centered leadership is here as well. And then we have the ego and the authentic self. And a lot of people heard about the ego, and there's different definitions, but the ego, its job is to protect, comfort, control, and security. And the authentic self is love, compassion, and integrity. And we can only either be in the ego or the authentic self at one time. We can't be in both. And what happens is oftentimes when people don't have the right tools and skills, they're working from a place of ego. And if you've ever compared yourself to somebody else, oh, that person has more money than me, or I'm not as good as that person, that's the ego talking. That's a protection mechanism talking. If you've ever felt uncomfortable, that's the ego doesn't like where it's at. It's trying to protect you. And the ego is not necessarily bad. It's just misinformed. It's in the wrong. It rears its head when we don't need it to rear its head. And there's so much more about ego and authentic self. But what happens is poor leadership comes when people are ego-based. This is when they don't communicate, right? They're quick to anger. They snap at people. They micromanage or try to control everything. They don't have integrity. They're narcissistic. That's where leaders really go off. What we need to do is we need more, when they talk about authentic leaders, we need leaders to really show up, because when you're in your authentic self, you're open, you're communicating, you're empowering, you're serving, you're giving, you're creative. That's really authentic. Our nature is to create. And so creativity comes from your authentic self. It's really hard to create when you're in your ego. It's not true. It's not true. It's like forced creation. So we need more leaders to be authentic. And in a way, a lot of this has to do with our self-worth. And self-worth is like, how well how much our ego allows us to achieve. Because what will happen is you'll have a certain level of achievements, and what happens is your self-worth is going to level out with where your achievements are. And then what happens is, like, if you get a promotion, then there's this gap. So say I just get a promotion and my achievements are outpacing my self-worth. And so that's insecurity. So I'm newly promoted. I didn't, I'm like, I'm not sure I can do this job, but I think so. So I'm a little bit on edge. I'm not truly myself. I'm not in my flow. I'm micromanaging a little bit till I'm sure I can do this job. And then after a couple of weeks, I'm like, oh, I can do this job. My self-worth hits my achievements. And then it's like, okay, my ego can retreat again. But what happens is oftentimes when we get to a point of leadership, we start our business, we get a big promotion, or we don't have the right tools, or our achievements are always outpacing our self-worth. And this is where imposter syndrome comes from. So it's like, I don't feel worthy to have this leadership position. So then I get all this internal chatter, and then I put up my defenses because I'm afraid somebody's going to notice it. And then I'm really not the leader. I'm not that authentic leader that I want to be, because I have this self-doubt. I'm overanalyzing everything. I'm afraid to maybe open up, communicate, participate in meetings, hold people accountable, set great boundaries. This is what I see people doing. But when we get our self-worth, when we get this inherent self-worth, which comes with the connection to a higher power. I mean, there's a lot of mental and psychological things that I do with people, but then there's this other level, because when we have this connection to our higher power, and we realize when we connect into our soul, we realize we have self-worth no matter what. Our self-worth doesn't come whether I get promoted or not, whether this project works out or not. We still want the project to work out, but if it doesn't work out, I know I'm okay, because I know I'm still a lovable, worthy person. My identity is not tied up in that self-worth. And that really comes with confidence and self-esteem. I tell, in a way, it's like I teach leaders confidence and self-esteem, and then people, especially English people, are like, confident? I don't want to be arrogant. I'm like, look, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. And me, I used to be like shy, and then arrogant, because both arrogance and shyness are born out of insecurity. But confidence, and to me, I'm using confidence and self-esteem at the right. When you have that inner confidence, when you have the self-esteem that you're worthy no matter what, and that you have the ability to move forward. Because to me, confidence as a leader doesn't mean you know it all. It means that no matter what's going to happen, you got it covered, and your team got it covered. Nothing that happens externally is going to break down what you believe about yourself, and that's where the relationship with your higher power comes in. And when you are a confident leader, that's when you get loyalty, that's when you get respect, that's when you are inspirational. And because if you think about people that you admire as leaders, they have a confidence about themselves. They have a comfort level with themselves. They are inspiring. You don't get leaders that are insecure, that people are like, I really want to follow them. There's some sort of confidence that they have in themselves and you, and where they're going, their purpose. All right. Last thing I really want to talk about is service, focusing on others and not self. So generally speaking, this is a quote by Gordon Hinckley. The most miserable people I know are those who are obsessed with themselves. The happiest people I know are those who lose themselves in the service of others. By and large, I've come to see that if we complain about life, it is because we're thinking only of ourselves. Now, I used to be so worried about making money and how people viewed me. And what I looked like in there was just really was a difficult way to go through life. And then the funny thing is, when I just focused on others, of giving great value to my customers, my employees, the community, then it's funny, then I was more likable, even though I was focused on them and not myself. I believe I was more likable. To me, that really showed through. And also, we were more successful. The funny thing is, when I stopped worrying about the end goal and just being present and providing value, I found that I got more value back. And that's what I call the law of value. When you give value, and what I mean by service is you just focus on others. And when you give value through true love and service, and there's much more of this, but you get joy and fulfillment back. Oftentimes you get paid back for that, and sometimes it doesn't look like the way you thought it would, but oftentimes I see people getting more money than they ever thought by being of service. And I was president of the board of directors for Conscious Capitalism, about giving back and how it really is the full cycle of capitalism. That's, again, we're running out of time. There's so much to tell you. You get so many relationships and connections back, and you get this inner peace, flow, and confidence from that. And so to me, what soul-centered leadership is, that if you talk about a definition, it's living and leading from your authentic self in a place of service. We talk about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and the higher you get, the more you're of service, because the self-actualization is often about just really empowering and giving to others. The last thing, and if you have questions, I'm going to be ready to answer questions here in a second, is soul-centered leadership is look, when you remember that you are love and a divine soul, when you remember that your essence is love and that you are a divine soul, you've been living, your soul's been going on before this lifetime and after this lifetime. And when you tap into the connection with your higher power, whether you call that the God or the universe or whatever you call that, that gives you this unshakable confidence and ultimate resilience, because no matter what, you got it covered. That the universe is going to support you. The universe is a giving place, or your God is a giving place. God still loves you, whatever your terminology is. And then that's really where you find your true purpose. And people are attracted to that. And everything you need to reach your immense potential on earth is available to you. Because I believe that we have so much potential, but we got to get out of our own ways, because our negative self-talk, our beliefs, our conditioning can hold us back. But the more we clear them, and when I talk about spiritual psychology, to me, we learned like 8 different psychoanalysis techniques. That's what I put into soul-centered leadership, is helping you clear out those blocks between you and your soul. So you're really in connection with your soul, because you have so much more energy. You're so much more positive, so much more comfortable with yourself, resilient, et cetera. And that's really what I talk about around here on soul-centered leadership. Oh my gosh, a lot of me talking, and I appreciate everybody sticking in there. Now, what questions do you have? Here, I'm going to open it up to questions. I know I've been talking a lot. Let's see if you have any questions. Chat it in there. Even if you have a question, pop it in there, and then we'll take you off of mute. We have a lot of people on here, so we do have people on mute. But if you have any questions, pop it in, and we will do my best to answer it. Just a couple other things, minor things that I was just going to tell everybody here. Neil, listening to London, the Olympic Park. That's great. Always good when you can check it out from somewhere else. Well, the last thing I'll do, and if there's no questions, that's fine, is if this is something you're like, hey, this is interesting to me. Because the thing is, I'm like, do I want to teach a course in this? I'm not sure. Do I want to coach in this? I'm not sure. And part of the more I get to connect to my soul, the more I just do things that feel right. I follow my intuition. And so what I'm doing, I'm gonna offer something to anybody. And what that is if you're interested in this, send me an email, Michael@TechLeaderInsider. You probably got a bunch of reminders from me and say, hey, I have an interest in this. This is something I want to work more on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a book. I'm going to send you a book. And if you read that book, let me know, and then I'll book a call with you, and then we'll talk about what that book means to you. And I'm not even going to tell you what that book is. It's a surprise. You got to email me to tell you. Yeah, I got to make it a little hard for you. I got to make you do it. Because if the book resonates with you, and the book isn't all that I believe, but the book is some of the key, it sort of lays out a key thing that I do. And if you read the book and maybe it doesn't relate to you, that's totally okay. Maybe what it is. And if a couple people do it, maybe we'll do a spiritual soul-centered mastermind later this year. Maybe somebody's interested in coaching, or maybe we'll just have an amazing conversation, because I love talking about this, and I wish I could do it more. Maybe we'll put just together a little informal group about it. But and I know I got a couple people in my mastermind in here, and I think if you're in a mastermind, you've seen this. A lot of this, I bet, is really familiar with you. But it's like there's a whole nother level when you can connect to your higher power, when you realize, when you open it up to your soul. It's like everything that we've been working on about confidence and accountability and resilience and mindset. It's like, holy cow, there's another level. And to me, it just brings it into a more powerful place. All right, everybody, if there's no extra questions, I'm going to sign off here and let everybody go. But I am going to put this recording up, and that anybody can do, or you can send along. And if you're probably on my mailing list, so I'll send the mailing list up. And I love to chat about this. So if you're interested in the book, just drop me an email, and I'll send you what that book is. And maybe if it's right for you, we'll do a call. All right, everybody, lots of love, lots of blessings. Nice to see everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.